for the disability community. I'll start again. Welcome to the Arc of Massachusetts Your Right to Vote webinar. This is the first in a two-part series on the importance of voting for the disability community in the upcoming elections. My name is Jose Lopez. I'm the policy officer with the Arc of Massachusetts. The election is coming soon. The primary is in just 20 days and the general in 83 days, just under 3 months. Voting is a fundamental right enshrined in our Constitution. Every person eligible to vote deserves to have their voice heard. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of voting, key election dates, the right to vote, registering to vote, and a few other things to get organized for the upcoming elections. Your vote helps choose which candidates will run our government. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families face several problems, and having officials willing to champion bills and help decide where money gets spent can make a big difference. Your vote should go to candidates who think about how they can fix the disability community's problems. Here are the key voting dates, or here are the key dates for the upcoming elections. The first set of dates is for the primaries and the second for the general election. So with the state primary being on September 3rd and August 24th being the voter registration deadline, that's just 10 days difference. So the time you have to have your registration completed is just 10 days prior to the primary ballots being needed. And then August 26th is the vote by mail application deadline. So if you intend on voting by mail or absentee ballot, your application has to be done by August 26th. The state election date is November 5th for the general election, which will be determining who are the elected officials. October 19th being the first day of in-person early voting. October 26th being the last day to register to vote. Again, just 10 days prior to the election date of November 5th. October 29th is the deadline to apply for mail-in ballots. And November 1st is the last day of in-person early voting. Of note is that Massachusetts doesn't have same-day registration. So it's important to note that you can't just register and vote on the same day. That's something to be very mindful of. And another kind of sort of general comment, the primaries will determine who are the nominees for the general election, and then the general election will determine who are the elected officials. So how big is our community's voting bloc? Keep in mind, these are national numbers. The disability community is made up of over 61 million people across all communities, races, genders, sexual orientations, religions, and ages. With approximately 62% or over 38 million eligible to vote, we are close to 1 out of every 6 voters. However, voters with disabilities vote at a lower rate than people without disabilities and are twice as likely to face barriers when voting. In the most recent elections in 2022, 51% of disabled eligible voters voted, just over half, which means we can almost double the volume of our voice if everyone gets involved. Voter turnout is critical for every election. As we can see in these figures, increased voting turnout is trending in the right direction and at a higher rate than voters without disabilities. According to a 2022 current population survey, Massachusetts had nearly 350,000 disabled eligible voters. If the national averages apply, that would mean that 170,000 disabled eligible voters aren't voting or haven't voted in the past. So while these numbers are trending in the right direction, and these are solid, good numbers, there definitely is room for meaningful improvement. And just as we go through the presentation, if you have a question or want to make a comment, please drop it in the chats, and we can address it there. So what are the requirements to vote in Massachusetts? Who can vote? You can vote in Massachusetts if you are a citizen of the United States, you are a resident of Massachusetts, you are 18 years old or older, and you are not currently incarcerated because of a felony conviction. These are the only requirements, so it's pretty straightforward. Before you can vote, you have to be registered. Who needs to register? Basically, it's those who are first timers, new citizens, and movers, So if we take a look here, the first step, again, is to make sure that you are registered. If you haven't registered before, recently became a citizen, or if you've moved since the last time you voted, even if it's in the same district, you need to register to vote. You can register to vote in person, online, by mail. So a number of ways to register. You can see here there are a number of places where you can register to vote, including local town clerks, typically located in your city hall or city government office. A key item to note here is that the registration forms completed in person are valid on the day they are signed. So that's registering to vote in person. Registering to vote online. To register to vote online, you must have a signature on file with the Registry of Motor Vehicles. If you currently have a Massachusetts driver's license or state ID, you may use the online voter registration application to register, update your address, or change your party affiliation. Voter registration forms submitted online must be submitted by midnight on the date of the voter registration deadline. Registering to vote by mail. To register to vote by mail, you will need to complete a voter registration form by providing your first name, last name, birth date in this format, your Massachusetts ID or last four of your social security number, your street address. You must also select one of three options: no party, political party, or political designation. And a political designation is an entity. It's not a political party itself, but it's a legal group that's recognized by the state. And examples are American Term Limits delegation, the Constitution Party delegation, Green Party. There's a few with silly names, but they're actually serious entities. The Pirate Party, Pizza Party, and so on. The Pirate Party, basically what they support are civil rights, digital rights, internet freedoms. So you can't necessarily take the delegation's name as to what their actual intentions are. But again, there are a number of things to select and look into to see which are the entities that most closely align with your political beliefs. So the form must be completed, signed, and delivered to your local election office. A voter registration form submitted by mail must be postmarked no later than the voter registration deadline. We'll see those again in a moment. So voting by mail, the application, mail-in ballot application deadlines. So your mail-in application must reach your local election officials by 5 p.m. on the 5th business day before the election. No matter when the application is postmarked, your application must be in the local election office by the deadline. So for the primaries, it's August 26th, Monday by 5 p.m. Again, this is the application deadline. And for the state election, it's October 29th, Thursday by 5 p.m. Apply as early as possible, especially if your ballot will need to be mailed out of town. The Postal Service recommends allowing up to 7 days for mail delivery. To ensure that you receive your ballot with enough time to mail it back to you, you should apply 2 to 3 weeks before Election Day. So again, these times are coming soon. Returning your ballot. So once you've completed your ballot, there are a few ways you can return it. The options: return your ballot you can mail it back by using the envelope provided. You can hand delivering your ballot to your local election office, ones we mentioned before, typically in your city hall or local government office. Dropping off your ballot at early voting locations during early voting hours, or using a ballot box. It's important to note here that ballots cannot be dropped off at a polling place on election day. So again, if you're intending to use a ballot, be mindful of these criteria. You can vote by absentee ballot if you will be away from your city or town on election day, you have a religious belief that prevents you from voting at your polling location on election day, you have a disability that prevents you from voting at your polling location, or if you are requesting an emergency absentee ballot due to hospitalization. So the deadlines: your application to vote for absentee by mail must be at the local election office by 5 p.m. on August 26th, and to cast a primary ballot by 5 p.m. on October 29th for the general election. So again, your guardianship and voting. So review your original guardianship application to make sure voting is not prohibited. Unless a guardianship specifically prohibits a person under guardianship from voting, the person can register and vote. Guardianships which prohibit voting are very uncommon. So local election officers have no discretion, and this is important too, because someone might say, oh, no, I don't think that's possible. Just remember, local election officials have no discretion to reject voter registration because of guardianship, unless the guardianship decree specifically prohibits the person under guardianship from voting. So it may be wise as well to have a copy of your guardianship document with you if you're helping her vote on that given day. Voting at the polls, accessibility. So accessible polling places are very important. All polling locations must be accessible. The Secretary of the Commonwealth has standard locations are required to meet, and the standards include making sure that there's accessible parking, accessible entrances, and ramps wherever there are stairs. And the ramps do not necessarily need to be permanent. So again, it's really important to take a look at where you intend to vote and those polling locations, or speaking to the groups that are organizing that and making sure they're able to meet kind of your needs. So again, well before the day you plan on voting, it'd be good to know where your polling place is going to be. And if you need accommodations, that your polling place is prepared. And really, it's only fair to them to make sure that ahead of time that they're aware of what special accommodations a person might need. But in general, Massachusetts is working hard to ensure that equal rights for all voters. Massachusetts is committed to making voting accessible for all voters. And the election division, check each polling place to make sure that they meet state accessibility regulations. The election division trains poll workers on assisting voters with disabilities. So if you have any suggestions to improve voting, you can reach out to the election division at the number there or that email address. It'd be interesting as well to hear if people have had accessibility problems in the past. It'd be interesting to hear in this discussion if possible. So the ARC basically is a nonpartisan and does not endorse any specific candidates. So really what we're trying to do is inform everyone of what their rights are in the voting process, and to help make sure that people, if they have any questions, we can help solve them, or send them to the right direction of persons who can. If you just go to your government websites, they're going to be very well organized around the vote. And so if you have any specific questions, feel free to discuss them now, but also, make sure you take a look at your particular area's website and see the specification for your town or district. Are there any other items in the chat, Jackie?
Nothing at this point.
Okay. So as a reminder, here are the key dates, with the first of these dates being just 10 days away. So again, the state primary, September 3rd, with the voter registration deadline being August 24th. The vote by mail application deadline. So again, if you intend on voting by mail or by absentee ballot, that's August 26th. And then the election, November 5th. The first day of early in-person voting, October 19th. The last day to register to vote is October 26th. And October 20th being the deadline to apply for mail-in ballots. And November 1st being the last day of in-person early voting. So thank you for attending, and hopefully you found this helpful, this first part of the series. The second part of the voting webinar series will be held on Wednesday, August 28th at noon with Jackie Doherty, the ARC's new Director of Education and Outreach, presenting that presentation. So be sure to mark your calendars and join Jackie for Why Voting Matters. Thank you all very much.